This happened in 2016, when I was a 17 years old first-year college student in film school. When I left for college, I got my first apartment. It was really small, but I was really proud of my new independence. I never felt unsafe in the apartment for several reasons. There were multiple gates in the residence that needed to be opened through a code that only people who lived there knew. My door had two different locks, and it was right next to the university, so the majority of people who lived in the neighborhood were college people. Up until this point, I never had a problem with anyone. In the apartment and surrounding area was generally safe. I'd always been careful to make sure I locked the door when I leave, and developed a habit to always check twice just to be safe. I never had a problem with the locks until a few months ago, when I left my apartment to go to class. When I went to lock the door, I couldn't get the key out of the lock. It was completely stuck. I went to get the caretaker of the building to help me, but he wasn't there, so I didn't have time to stick around since I'd be late for class. I knew I wouldn't be gone long, and since I didn't have much of a choice, I left the key inside the lock. I took off the lanyard on the key to make it less noticeable. When I got home a couple hours later, the caretaker was finally back, so he came up to my room to help me. I stood with him in the hallway for over a half hour, until he finally managed to get it out. He told me the lock was damaged, but it wasn't absolutely necessary to get a new one. Since my door had two locks, I thanked him for this help and he left. And that was the end of it. I really wasn't all too worried, because I'd still be able to use both of the locks when I was inside the apartment. Flash forward to the 2 months later, I was taking out the trash one night around 11 p.m. while on the phone with my sister. We'd often talk on the phone since we were rarely able to see each other since I moved out. I was telling her about my plans that night, explaining how I was going to take a quick shower and then go to a party. Like I said before, I always lock the door, even when I'm only gone for a minute to take out the trash, because of my main lock still being damaged. I only locked it once from the outside whenever I left. When I got back to my apartment, I froze in my steps. When I found the door unlocked, I was almost positive that I looked up before, which immediately alarmed me. I went into the apartment and locked the door right away, just to make sure the other lock wasn't broken. Thankfully, it still worked, and I double-locked myself inside. My apartment is only 215 square feet, so the layout is pretty simple. The main living room area is directly in front of the door across the room, and the bathroom is immediately in the left when you step in. I had left the bathroom door slightly open, and when I walked by it, I noticed something that stopped me in my tracks. In the bathtub, behind the shower curtain, I could see the silhouette of a large person standing in my shower. I instantly panicked and sprinted towards the door to leave as fast as I could. For whatever reason, the main lock that was damaged from about 2 months earlier was jammed and went in turn, despite trying as hard as I possibly could. At the moment, my fight or flight instincts kicked in, realizing I was completely trapped in a serious danger. My only other option was the window. Without really thinking, I jumped out of the window, figuring it was my only choice. The problem was that I lived on the second floor, so I completely crushed my ankles in a landing. Despite the immense pain, I limped as fast as I could away from the building. When it was maybe 50 feet away, I looked back and made eye contact with the man staring at me through my window. As I limped further away, I eventually found a bush, so I hid by it and called the police, who luckily arrived in 10 minutes, since I lived close to the police station. They kicked my door open and found the man sitting on my couch, holding a kitchen knife, waiting for me to come back. They arrested the guy, and later told me he had already been arrested for assault, attempt kidnapping, and attempt murder. Since my apartment was in a very friendly neighborhood with mostly college students, he was able to get inside the building by having other people hold the door for him. Although I didn't see him at first, he must have heard me telling my sister I was going to take a shower, which is why he was waiting in the bathroom for me. The police determined that he crocheted my lock while I was taking out the trash, and later learned in questioning that he noticed me on a school campus and followed me home several times before finally breaking in. Just a week before this happened, I just got a new phone. So my old one was left on the counter. When he entered my apartment, he spotted the phone and put it in his pocket, thinking I'd have no way of calling for help. I don't live there anymore, But after that incident, the apartment gave everyone a building ID, so we had to scan them to get inside. Nothing bad in the neighborhood happened since then, but that night still haunts me to this day.